Hi, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Marty's Minute Meditations. If you enjoy Marty's Minute Meditations, please visit Marty's Patreon page at patreon.com/Marty's Minute Meditations. That's patreon.com/MartyMenitations. Or you could just click the link in the description. That would also be a possibility. It would be a lot easier than writing all that out and then spelling it out and typing it out. And you could just click a button, really, and visit my Patreon page. I think that's important to point out. Become a martyr for manhood. Help Marty to help men, right? Also, I just want to say that some people are going, Marty, why did you spell all that out? Why'd you spell all that out? You could have just told us from the beginning to click the link. Well, why would I pass up a chance to spell? We don't spell as adults. When kids always spell things, because they're learning, because they're playing with letters and sounds, and they're spelling things out, and it's really fun. Well, what about adults? Why don't we do that? Why don't we take the time to play with language anymore, So I took that moment just as a lesson. I'm just full of lessons, okay? As a lesson to remember to just take moments to play, right? So welcome to the show. New listeners, thanks for hopping on board. We love to talk about, the spiritual, the sacred masculinity, talking about manhood these days. If you're an old listener, welcome back. The space is welcoming you back. It's warm for you. Your seat, we kept your seat warm. Take a seat. Take a seat. Would you like any beverages? Would you like a snack? Also for the new people, if you'd like a snack or a beverage, certainly. But this is your new seat right here, okay? So sit down. Or you could stand. You could also stand. You could also lie down. I'm not trying to direct your meditation. I'm just trying to open the door, okay? So with that being said, let's begin. Are you a label maker? Do you make labels for people? Do you make labels for yourself? It makes a lot of sense. We try to make sense of each other and ourselves through labels, through categories. It's how we work. It's how we understand the world. It's how it is. I'm sitting in a chair, at a desk, in front of a computer. Those are all labels. Those are all names. That's what we call these things. That's what we associate with it, right? That's how we are in communion with something, is how we label it and how we categorize it, right? It's interesting. So labels help us make sense of the world. But do they create a problem in the world? When we label something, when we categorize something, do we create expectations out of that thing, out of that person? If I call somebody a plumber, then I expect them to be able to plumb. If I call somebody a fighter, I expect them to be able to fight, which creates a problem if they're not a fighter. And I've started a fight with somebody, and I hope that they will jump in and defend me because they're fighters, right? I feel like that's something that is problematic, especially when it comes to, manhood or womanhood. If there's a woman at a bar with a man, and, there's all these different associations with manhood, right? And if she starts a fight with another man and she expects that man that she's with to jump in and fight for her because there's an expectation to that label of manhood, Well, if I start a fight, my man will be there to step in and fight for me. No. No, because you've associated something with that label. And if you're a woman, and if you're trying to fight labels, right, then you should be able to defend yourself if you start a fight with a man, right, at a bar. I've seen that happen before. Women starting fights at bars and expecting their boyfriend to just step in and fight for their honor, you know? Oh boy, weren't those the days? Weren't those the days where a man would step in and fight for a woman because of their manhood, because of that label, right? That's just one label associated with it. I'm just trying to, and I know a lot of people are going, Marty, you know, a lot of people can be offended by that comment, you know, either, you know, women saying that, well, men should step in and also like women don't start fights ever, right? Which is pretty assumptive. That's pretty assumptive, ladies. And for you men who are saying, no, I'm a man, I go in and fight. Well, why would you? Why don't you question the fights that you enter, right? Do you just enter a fight when someone goes, hey, step on in and fight, right? Do you do that? Are you that kind of man that just steps in and doesn't question the fight, but just fights? That's interesting. Maybe we should question what fights we step into, right? So I think that's interesting, talking about labels and the behaviors that are associated with these labels. So I go back to this question: are you a label maker? Do you associate a label with certain individuals and yourself that creates certain expectations? So if you associate somebody with a label, you've created a whole world for them. Maybe they're not that label. You know, maybe that's not who they are. It's kind of like a dog in a doghouse. Now, follow me with this. I know you're like, Marty, what are you talking about? Dog in a doghouse. Understand. Do dogs really live in doghouses? If you have a doghouse in your backyard and you let your dog out, are you sending them to the doghouse? No. Are they limited to that doghouse? No. That would be animal abuse if you limited your dog to the doghouse, because the doghouse doesn't define the dog and the dog doesn't define the doghouse, right? The dog is free to roam. In fact, it lives in your house. And are you limited by your house? Are you limited by that? No, and that's what labels are. Labels are like a doghouse for a dog. Labels limit the dog. Isn't that a shame? Because a dog is so much more than a doghouse. A dog is welcome to roam free through the land. That's what labels are. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine recently. We went out to brunch at our favorite vegan place in the beginning, and we were having a great conversation about just, you know, spiritual healing and how, you know, how can you open your diet up to really making your soul and your spirit full, really filling your spirit up, right? And my friend Scott turned to me at one point and said, you know, Marty, you're into the new age. And I immediately, I felt it. I don't like that phrase of the new age, right? Because so much of my knowledge and how I approach things isn't necessarily from the new age, it's from the old age. It's from the past, it's from my ancestors. They're coming back, they're bringing it back, right? So this term, the new age, right? I was very angry at my friend for saying that, for labeling me that way. And so we had this conversation, I'll call it a conversation, and we had this conversation and I challenged him on that. I said, new age, Scott, I mean, that's not really what it is. And then he kind of really dug into it and listed off how I'm a new age person, and then I started to get frustrated, and then he started to talk about how people won't listen to me because I associate with that label. And I said, well, no, you're associating me with that label, and that's wrong. That's wrong of you to do that. That's wrong of you to label me in that way, and I feel like that's really limiting my ability to really communicate with people, as you and others labeling me that way and assuming that I follow those behaviors that all those new age people do. And so that's dangerous. It's dangerous to label people that way, right? And I want to talk about it in a way that, after that we went to a supermarket, and I was going through the aisles, and I noticed that, the ketchup and the mustard are labels. But what defines ketchup and mustard, right? Is the color. If mustard was red, what do we just call it? Ketchup? Ketchup number 2, right? If ketchup was yellow, would we call that mustard? Mustard's friend? Mustard's cousin? Are they related to each other? They have similar ingredients in them. Are they defined by their ingredients? Are they defined by their color? Are they defined by their taste? Because, sometimes they change. Sometimes their tastes can be different, right? Or is it about where they're from, where they come from, right? Isn't that segregating condiments by doing that? Isn't ketchup just a label where we assume a flavor and a color from it? Isn't this the same with the mustard? If we call something a mustard, don't we assume something from it? Don't we limit it? What about what mustard is truly capable of? What if mustard is capable of being a ketchup? What if ketchup is capable of being a mustard? But we've limited it by these labels. We call it condiments under another label. That's pretty silly, that we call it a condiment, but we limit it by that label. I think we need to free the ketchup and the mustards of the world from these labels, from these restrictions. I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong to assume that a ketchup is a ketchup and a mustard is a mustard. And we do that to people. We label them every day. We assume that they're one thing, right? And by labeling them, don't we limit their possibilities? We do it with race. We do it with sexuality. We do it with gender. When we label, we create these expectations, and everybody does it. There's a side that says, well, there's only ketchups and mustards. And if you don't associate with a ketchup or a mustard, then you're just pretending, right? You're just delusional. Then there's another side that says, well, there's all sorts of condiments. And in fact, it's limiting to call them condiments, but there's 100 different types of that. And if you don't agree with that, if you don't associate with a condiment that doesn't really exist, then you hate condiments. You're a condiment hater. And you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be guilted, right? So you have all these sides just utilizing labels as weapons. Isn't that weird? And they're all in combat of each other. They're all throwing ketchup and mustard at each other. But you know what? They still exist. Ketchup and mustard still physically exist, but there's labels to them, right? And you've restricted that physical entity to exist in space on both sides by either saying it's one thing or another, or by saying that it has to be associated with something. And it's also political. And you know me, I don't like to get too political. I don't like to go on one side of the fence or the other. But that's why. It's because we label each other in such a way that we, maybe if people didn't consider me New Age, Scott, people would actually listen to what I have to say, right? But people like to put up labels as a defense, right? So they don't have to listen, right? So somebody who's very science-minded, right? Very quote-unquote science-minded, right? Will see me and they'll go, oh, he's so New Age, right? He's so New Age, and I don't really need to listen to him. He's so silly. He's so silly, right? But when people like Scott call me New Age, then other people go, oh, he's New Age, so I shouldn't listen to him. But that label has limited the possibilities of people listening to me and really taking in what I have to offer as an individual. I do have a psychology degree. I do have to say that I'm not a licensed psychologist. I'm not a licensed therapist, but that doesn't mean I don't know things. I don't know things, and I can't give things to people, right? But if people label me as New Age Scott, Scott, how would you like if I labeled you? right? If I labeled you, a stupid poo-poo head, right? Because then everybody would go, oh, that's Scott. He's a stupid poo-poo head. Don't listen to him because he's stupid and he's a poo-poo head. But that limits people's ability to listen to you because they just go, oh, he's a stupid poo-poo head. So that's all the things he has to say are pooey, right? So then, but I'm not gonna associate myself with that. I'm not gonna label Scott that way. All right, folks. I don't truly think that he is a stupid poo-poo head. So you can listen to what he has to say. So I would expect people to have the same respect, right? Expect respect from other people. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going, I'm not a label maker. I'm not a label maker. I don't do that. I bet you do. Because we all do it. It's the monkey mind, right? I talked about this in the monkey mind. We jumped to assumptions, right? We just jumped to assumptions. But we, as human beings, as people with souls, right? And minds and consciousness, we have to fight that internal thing. So if I see somebody and I go, they're a ketchup, so all I'm going to expect from them is ketchup stuff. Well, what about, maybe they're not a ketchup. Maybe they're a mustard. Just because they're red doesn't mean they have to be ketchup. Just because I dip my fries in it doesn't mean it's ketchup, okay? People dip their fries in mustard too. People dip their fries in mayonnaise. People dip their fries in, malt vinegar, which is also in ketchup. So how would you know, right? Whoa, I know. Your mind is blown. Your mind is blown because we've limited ourselves. We've limited. Go get some fries and dip it in some ketchup. And then dip it in some mustard. And then dip it in some mayonnaise. Try it all out. Don't limit yourself. And I bring this up. This is a big topic right now because labels are thrown everywhere. And when we label each other, we look at it and we go, well, then you can only have, if you look at a ketchup, you go, well, you can only have this amount of ingredients, right? Or this type of ingredient. So now I expect this of you. Now I know a lot of the men out there are going, Marty, what does this have to do with me? What does this have to do with manhood? This is Marty's Menitations, right? If I wanted to listen to some average old meditation, I'd go on YouTube, I'd click in meditation, and I'd watch some silly video, right? Some general video about the spirit and blah 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 blah. Well, men, we need to pay attention because men label. I'm sure women do too. I don't want to put a lot of blame on men because I think we're all to blame for the world we've created and agreed to. But men, this is one man speaking to another, right? Speaking to a million right now. This is one man speaking to millions of other men. We need to stop labeling too. We need to stop being the label makers, expecting specific things from specific men because we've decided that this type of ketchup of manhood has these specific ingredients. You gotta have muscles, right? You have to be dominant. What about a man who cooks? A man who's happy to give massages? A man who sews? Are they no longer a man because they didn't fit your label? What about women, right? When men label women, what makes a woman? Have you ever seen a woman with amazing biceps and you go, that's not a woman? Well, it is. It could be. Because you've assumed the ingredients of that label. Why can't she have muscles? I think that's very attractive when a woman has very big muscles. Very big muscles, right? Maybe you want to touch those muscles. Maybe you want to lick them. I don't know. Don't hide your attraction towards that ingredient that you didn't know was in that mustard. Maybe you have that mustard. You go, wow, this is a really good mustard. I've never tasted a mustard like this. Well, maybe you shouldn't limit your expectations of a mustard, okay? Maybe when you're out there looking for a woman, maybe you've been out at a bar recently and you're looking around. You go, It's a woman, and then you talk to her, and then she says something, and you go, I don't know, that's not really what a woman is to me. Well, maybe you should try that ingredient out. Maybe you should test it out, see what it's like to have a meal with that condiment, Or maybe you're a man and you meet another man and you have these expectations of that man being this man, right? And you go, oh, I didn't know that ingredient was involved in manhood, and I really enjoy that ingredient. And maybe I want to try that ingredient a little bit more, right? Maybe I don't want to have it, with a snack just this time. Maybe I want to have it with dinner. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at? It's an analogy. Maybe you meet a non-gender conforming individual, right? You've assumed a bunch of ingredients about them. And then, oh, well, maybe that ingredient is really good. Maybe you want to try mayonnaise with your fries. You understand what I'm trying to say? Maybe you want to kiss that non-gender conforming individual because they've got a couple ingredients in there that you weren't expecting, right? I don't know, let that settle. Let that settle in. It's weird. I know, Marty's kind of blowing your mind right now. It's kind of weird. It's kind of strange. But we're label makers. And we made up the labels. The labels never existed in nature, right? We just showed up and went, that's what that is, right? We labeled the things. Adam and Eve, they labeled stuff. They were just like, yeah, we're going to label stuff because God put it here, so we're just going to do that, right? And that's it if you adhere to the Catholic, right, religion. But isn't that interesting that they named things and it made them understand what they were? But you know what it did? It separated them from the world. And that's exactly what labels are doing to us. They're separating us from each other. In order to create unity in this world, we need to stop dividing each other by labels. We have to stop assuming that each label has its own particular ingredients. So going into this meditation today, I want to have that in mind. That these labels are something that we've created for ourselves and for others, that limit the expectations we have. So I want you to take a breath in, take a breath out, take a breath in, and take a breath out. Close your eyes. As long as you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, right? As always. I want you to imagine that you're in a supermarket. It's completely empty. It's just you. You alone in a supermarket walking around. You're walking through the aisles and maybe you're walking through the condiment aisle, right? What do you see? What's your favorite condiment? I mean, I've been sticking with ketchup and mustard so far, so maybe I just find, a ketchup. Don't worry about what brand it is. Don't overthink it. It's whatever condiment that maybe you don't like this condiment, right? Maybe you don't like it because of what it is, right? And you walk up to it. And you pick it up off the shelf. Just take a look at that condiment. What don't you like about it? What do you assume about it? If it's mayonnaise, is it because it's white and it's goopy? Right? If it's malt vinegar, it's just too sour for you, right? And breathe in and breathe out. Just take that condiment in. Let it be there with you. Now I want you to think about something about yourself that maybe you label, right? Maybe it's by race, or gender, or sex. Maybe it's a word like, maybe you call yourself a geek. Are you a geek? I don't know. You could see yourself in that condiment. You are that condiment. Look at you. Maybe your name is the condiment, right? Maybe Marty is plastered across this ketchup bottle. And turn it over. Turn it over and just look at the ingredients. Maybe it says charming, intelligent, sensitive. Those are the ingredients in Marty. My assumption of me being a geek, do those ingredients match up? I don't know. My preconceived notions of what I am might be wrong. Now put that condiment down. That was you. Right? You were wrong about yourself in that moment. Pick up another condiment. And look at that condiment and take it in as a group of people that you've labeled. Maybe it's a certain political belief. Right? Maybe you don't like Democrats. You don't like Republicans. Maybe you don't like, something silly like anime fans or animal lovers. Right? Pick up that condiment and just look at it. And just plaster that label across that condiment. But turn around, look at the ingredients. Maybe it says caring, loving, open, appreciative, critical. You don't know. Open that condiment up. Hey, you're alone in the supermarket. It's okay. You can taste it. Dip your finger in that condiment. Take a taste. Wow. That condiment tastes a little better than you thought. That condiment tastes a lot better than you thought. A lot more than you expected. You were wrong about that condiment. Because you assumed it tasted like something. You assumed it looked like something. Little did you know that condiment, you're going to buy that condiment now. You're going to bring that condiment home with you. And you're surprised about it, and you should be. Because you didn't know. Because you limited the possibilities of that condiment for yourself and your life. And that's what you've been doing with people this whole time. Because we're label makers. So next time you see somebody, remember, before you plaster that label on them, before you assume the ingredients that make up that person based on their label, ask the question, have I tried them with fries? Have I tried them on a sandwich? Have I considered what that label means when I look at that person? Scott, remember that sometimes when you put a label on somebody, you limit how you listen to them. Scott. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Marty's Menitations. Be sure to check out Marty's Patreon page Also, check out his YouTube channel. He's got some fun stuff coming out on there, too. I'm just trying to reach out to people, really trying to communicate. So to you listeners, old and new, come on back. Because I'll be here, waiting, ready to meditate.